Running away from the prison society. The repressive system is evolving. Like any sector of the big market that society has become, it is testing new methods to control individuals and subject them to its needs. New measures of control have been introduced in addition to jail as such, measures that simplify the problem of overcrowded prisons and allow those who govern our destiny to earn a lot of money. House arrest, for example, is a good investment. Not only does the prisoner manage his own detention, but an impression of democratic repression is also given. And what about the electronic bracelets that are applied to the ankles as though people were guinea pigs? These bracelets are provided by specialized companies, so new jobs are introduced. Why don't they call them ankle cuffs? Maybe the sentence, "You are obliged to wear ankle cuffs," doesn't sound good in court. Prisons exist everywhere in our society and invest all aspects of life. Aren't certain factories and offices where you sell your time to get what you need to keep on suffering and producing real prisons? Aren't the structures of schools and universities where exploiters and exploited are formed rather than people real prisons? And what about hospitals where you go to die of cancer after a stressful, meaningless life? What about rehabilitation centers, where new methods of rehabilitation back into the productive system are tested? And what are the concrete cubes called houses, where people swear? What are the slums where people enjoy their recreational hour? What are the supermarkets where you can buy the rubbish that you produce? And what about the streets where people die like flies? Aren't those who are compelled to work for a miserable wage prisoners? Aren't the idiots who perform in programs like Big Brother their own jailers? Aren't all those who morbidly watch the exasperating monotony of such programs also jailers of themselves? Prisoners in a world where the only freedom is the amount you have in your bank account. By creating more and more efficient networks of control and using more and more sophisticated instruments, dominion has penetrated all intimacy and turned all the places where people are forced to live into prisons. More than 50,000 people are taken to prison every year in Italy alone. Prisons with bars and guards, where torture is constantly practiced and beatings are the normal procedure. Prisoners submitted to 41 bis regime in Italy and the vice regime in Spain know all about that. Most prisoners have committed crimes against property or related to drug trafficking. Most are immigrants from lands where Western colonization has left nothing but misery. Laws are made by the rich in order to exploit those who cannot respect them, owing to brutal necessity. B. Brecht. I will never have any respect for a society whose aims are profit in war, and that locks up those who don't accept it. When I heard that they wanted to lock me up, I had no doubts. In the face of the certitude of reclusion, I preferred to run away. It was an instinctive choice, a choice that implied being taken away from what my life had been until then, but also the satisfaction of not being caught by the inquisitors. The life of a fugitive is like that of an incognito prisoner inside the big prison that is society. I can't say whether running away is better than being in an official prison, or worse than being in the prison society. I've never been in jail, but I know the alienation and mediocrity of life when you're exploited very well. They are different aspects of the same problem, that of not being free. I will never be free so long as exploitation, prisons, and all kinds of property and authority exist, as they are the main causes of social inequality. Far be it from me to idealize the condition of clandestinity as a winning formula for insurrection, but I cannot help pointing out its positive aspects. If you must face a prison cell, it is worth trying this adventure, which will also give you the possibility of discovering the chances that life as fugitive can offer, and the importance that this experience can have in a revolutionary perspective. It is also a question of principle. Your character and intentions play the most important role when it comes to making such a decision. In fact, it is better to stay at home and wait for events to overcome you rather than become a prisoner of fear and of yourself. For me, this is a journey on the fringes of society, during which I've tried, not always successfully, to hide myself the least possible, and to keep my own individualism/identity, even if I had to hide my story and my past. I'm not scared about not knowing where I'm going to put my sleeping bag tomorrow. I've always had a nomadic spirit, and traveling was my school, and the journey I'm making now is by far the most interesting and authentic one. It is a journey that has taught me how to find new equilibriums, even if I had to keep moving. And, although with great difficulty, it has taught me to remain an individual who struggles and not become a shadow hugging a wall. The choice of being a fugitive implies that you have to leave all public life, all relations with friends and relatives forever, and adopt a continuous tension and attention in what you say and do. It is a choice that should be considered carefully before being undertaken, a choice that brings thousands of contradictions in itself, but if faced with awareness and without falling into paranoia, it can keep your senses well alive and strengthen your capacity to adapt to any circumstances. You start looking at the country in a different way. You discover a new world when you pick up a map in your hands. Geography becomes a science that leads you to consider territory as something global, to think beyond borders, to look beyond forced passages and find ancient ones. It is a choice that transforms your relations with others and with your daily life, often in a disagreeable way. For example, when you meet someone you know, you risk putting him or her in trouble, and when you ask him or her a favor, you have the impression that you are putting him or her up against the wall. By contrast, solid relations, the deep ones in which complicity is spontaneous, become more concrete and passionate. Making friends without telling the truth is not easy. It is your attitude and need for communication that will decide. To live on the run is not easy. Your way of speaking, strange behavior, and the lies you have to tell surround you with an air of mystery that could be interpreted negatively. Everyone has a dear friend whom they trust completely, and that way everybody gets to know everything. Discretion is a virtue that is getting more and more rare. I think that the safest way is to keep moving continuously so that your enemy has very little chance of locating you. You absolutely must avoid telephone calls to relatives and friends, visits and letters addressed to known places. In fact, investigators turn their attention precisely onto these people because they know that you will naturally feel like listening to the voice of a loved one and letting him or her know that you're all right. You have to bear in mind that there are at least 2 cops in all long-distance trains, and that there are police stations in all the big railway stations. You have also to know that if you are too untidily or too flashily dressed, you will attract attention. The total militarization of the country compels you to find spots where you can move about, the weak links of the net through which you can pass unobserved, to see which hours of the day are more convenient and which are the most convenient places to spend the night. It is not at all nice to be hunted down, and it is even worse to know that the repression also and mainly concerns the people you love. Living in hiding, however, even if done with dignity, is still only one side of the coin. The other, the thought of your imprisoned comrades being submitted to humiliation and violence, cannot be forgotten. Living in hiding is a challenge, an occasion to test your ideas out, a choice that leads you into a life full of emotions, a reckless life that can be very sad at times, as all choices are. Living in hiding is like making a gamble, day after day, a gamble on your present because your future is a dark cloud, a series of miserable dates in your diary. At first you dream of cops and escapes. Then you dream of visiting friends and turning up in your usual bar. In particular, I have to say that my dreams have changed and become terribly real. I often ask myself if running away is still reasonable. Then I realize that I will never want to enter a prison. I'll keep on running, as this is my nature, and I'll keep on cursing those who persecute me. It is a choice that radically changes your way of life, your vision of life, your judgments about things, and your feelings. You become a bit hard, and you can only express yourself freely on the rare occasions that you meet friends. But then time is always too short to discuss what's going on and what has changed. You have to content yourself with a reality seen through the eyes of others. I think that I could have many more possibilities if there had been a solidarity network and widespread discussion on the question of living and hiding. To offer space for discussion and real possibilities of surviving to those who are compelled to hide is, in my opinion, an essential part of any revolutionary experience. I think that the life of fugitives would be easier if reference points existed, as they are indispensable in order to keep in touch concerning any needs, information, legal questions, solidarity, money. I don't intend to put forward a proposal for the creation of any formal structure with fixed responsibilities in the long term. I'm just thinking of a coordination of individuals and groups that want to show their solidarity, or who already do that, to those who are hit by repression. I think that such a coordination could open gaps in the walls they are building around us, a coordination that takes into account relatives and friends of the persecuted who are also hit by repression. And if the latter are sensitive to certain subjects, discussions could be suggested to help them understand repressive mechanisms better and get in touch with others in similar conditions, and maybe create their own way of organizing solidarity. If you hide yourself too much, break off all contacts, and disappear not only physically but also from your projects, then you definitely contribute to your own isolation. In this way, you would be playing the same game as those who want to get rid of us. For this reason, it is extremely important that if you are compelled to run away, you keep on living with dignity and don't lose your chance to act or intervene in discussions, as you have always done.